All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July 12th, 2022 Notary Governance Sync. On this one, if this is your first time calling, we kind of follow four high-level agenda points on this call for the next hour. First is we take a couple minutes, carve out, make sure that the notaries get participation for the SLA. If you're brand new to the call, we'll give you a chance to type hello and also fill that in for tracking. We'll spend a brief little time on metrics at a high level and just check in on why some of those numbers are moving or not moving like they are. And we have quite a few community issues that were flagged to be shared. So we'll spend the most of our time talking about some of the things that we flagged as the community that we wanted to chat about on this call. And at the very end, if there was something that came up on the course of this call that you wanted to dive into, we allocate time at the end for a discussion. As Galen just said, full house, full agenda. We're going to be pretty strict about trying to keep that 5-minute discussion. So if we get past that 5-minute mark, I might just say, hey, let's take this conversation over to like a different thread, or I can make a breakout room for us to go into. But we might be holding that 5 minutes really tight with this agenda going in order. So with that, a very friendly hello. My name's Kevin. I work on the community side. I'm joined by Galen, Rajef, and Deep. We are what's called like your notary governance team, and we're just here to make sure you have what you need in the program to be successful as possible. If you're on this call now and you're participating, it makes it really easy if we can know who you are when we're asking questions or talking back to change your name on Zoom so we know how to address you. Just right click on your profile picture and change it right there. It's even more helpful if you give us an indication of what organization you're with. Also helpful if anybody's watching the video later, they can see who was on the call, they can check back, or they can ask any questions of you while you talked. Now, as far as this goes, we have a SLA sign-in sheet. So Galen's going to drop the link here in chat any moment. Just like before, if you come through here, you can go back and make sure you're getting credit for today by putting your name on this list. And this is what we're tallying up for all the points that we look at. So the link's right there in chat, and that'll take you through it. All right, let's get started on metrics. So at a very high level, we call out these 4 metrics each week. And they are first off, the average time to data cap, no change. The average time to data cap for LDNs, about 2 hours slower. The first response from notaries, we're still at that 5-day mark, and the change in network. So right on the surface, this is like not a lot of changes in the last 2 weeks. Now, on the next slide, we'll kind of talk about one of the reasons for that. So if you look at these numbers, they're pulling from historical averages that go back for months. Now, when we take a look at our Starboard dashboard here, the reason for these numbers not changing significantly is if you take a look on the stats page that we have, and you take a look at the number of applications that are outstanding for allocations, the majority of them fall in like this hour timeline, 5 hours, 2 hours, maybe even a day. We have some of these legacy applications that are still in the system, and some of these are as long as like 84 days, as you see right here. And so these 84-day ones are really skewing our network percentages. So I just want to say thank you. We're still driving these down as we're cleaning house and filtering these out. What'll be nice is we can really start to get to specifics on like what regions, what notaries, what requests are coming through, and start to bubble those up to get a lot faster. And you could track all of this yourself if you look at the metrics page here on the bottom right, and you can see how the direct time to data cap has already come down to 6 days and 5 hours from the time that we pulled this 3 days ago, and we were at 7 days. So as we start to filter these out, it's really going to drop those long historicals that we've seen. Just a quick check-in on the health of the network. We're still seeing growth come from the Filecoin Plus program, very consistently daily active deal percentage increasing over time. So very small, minuscule changes, but no drastic increases. So nothing to call out with spikes in the network or big storage providers coming offline and miners. So what we can see is just a consistent deal count, consistent raise on the network as we go. So for the meat and potatoes of the meetings today, these are the core open issues that were flagged. When we say flagged, we always have this notary governance call that we post in the GitHub repository. We link it to the YouTube videos. So if there's an issue that you want to see discussed or that you want to bring up with the community, flag it here. We'll reach out to you, and then we'll make sure that it gets on the agenda pending time and see what we can solve. So all of this has been pre-populated before the meeting to have a very clear-cut agenda so we know what we're going to be talking about, and you can make sure that we give you ample time for any issues that you wanted to flag. So with that, let's jump in. Starting in August, the second notary governance call is going to be piloted to begin at 6 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. UTC. And for those of you calling into the Greater China region, that's 9 a.m. Beijing. And the purpose of this move is going to be a 2-cycle period in August to see if we see increased participation. Right now on this call live, we have 43 people on the line. In the afternoon calls, the average is around 15 to 20. So the hope is that by extending this by 2 hours, we'll make it easier for those of you that wish to call in. Rather than this one that you're on, you could call into that second governance call and have a lot easier time chatting in the morning. So this is going to go into effect in August. The notary governance calendar has already been updated, so there's no change on that. I'll post the reminders in Slack before the events, but just as a heads up, final time, August, we'll pilot this. If it's successful, we'll make it permanent. With this, we had a request come in.
I was gonna jump in real quick. K-Ray mentioned that the calendar is updated. I just want to plug that again and make sure if you are following or added that Google Calendar. I see it looks like there's 25 guests listed on that event. I don't know if you've added it to your own Google Calendar or what, but that's a place where you can find any links or changes, and we try and keep that as accurate and up to date as possible. So there's a public link which I'll go dig up to share that you can use to add that to your own Google Calendar view. So it might be helpful.
Good call out. Galen, was this one me or did you want to take this one?
I think that was me. Pretty sure. Yes. Let me grab the link to this one. So many GitHub issues. So this is Sunny is coming. Some of you may have seen this GitHub handle. This is a person that we are working with, helping us do some work in the large data sets and helping the governance team come up with some better processes for that, but also working on sort of the direct notary allocation flow. We have seen some kind of consistent back and forth in the direct notary allocations. We want that form to be both lightweight but useful. And some notaries have a really specific list of questions that they ask every time. And what that can do is a client puts in this form and then waits, and then the notary comes back and comments with their questions and then waits, and then the client comes back, answers the questions and waits. And it just leads to a lot of back and forth. Sunny was able to identify a couple specific questions that they think are worth adding to that initial form. So I would just love some of the notaries who, have experience making direct allocations and using that sort of direct client onboarding repo to please go look at this, check it out, weigh in. If there's some edits or comments that you have, we would love that feedback. And if nobody says anything, we may just ship it and see how it goes. But we may add in these questions and just see how that changes the amount of back and forth necessary for that pathway. So GitHub issue is posted there. Like I said, I don't see any hands on the call right now. So in the interest of time, I think we may power forward.
All right, I can speak to this one. So here's what's going on. When we had the third round of elections, the new notaries coming on board, and those of you that renewed in that third round of the notaries, took a lot of steps on KYC, took a lot of disclosure documentation, and we really kind of upped the stakes as far as documentation on the notary's process to be involved in the program. We did not require that first or second round notaries actively participated in this election. That meant that if they already had existing data cap from round 2, they were very happy in the program and they did not need to re-up. they didn't have to take any of those steps. They just were grandfathered in. What's happened is, since the rollout of the LDN v3, there are additional steps that are required for that technical process to work. So that means that some of these legacy grandfathered in notaries from the previous elections could still allocate data cap, but they could not participate in the LDN program. So what we saw was a lot of requests like, hey, I can't sign this, I can't do this application, from people that were participating and active and welcome. So what the proposal is, and we're leaving this open, and this is one of the things we're seeking feedback from you, notaries, in this third round of elections, is we're proposing allowing the second round notaries not to receive new data cap, but to participate in LDN by taking the same verification steps, essentially updating their accounts by completing these disclosure documentations. Once they do this, then they'll have access to the same LDN process. We're only going to allow this for notaries that have been active and participating. It's just a small handful. So we're not going to ping every notary who was once in the program and ask them to come back and ask them if they want to do it. We're just making this off people that are active in the program right now, and they wish to be active in all aspects. So again, no new data cap for them, but just giving them full access by completing the same disclosure process after that election. So if you have any thoughts on this, if this impacts you, or you have anything you want to add, feel free to put in the ticket. I'm also going to mute and let anybody kind of speak their thoughts on this topic.
There's two questions in the chat about how many we think that would be. Off the top of my head, I think it's less than 5 currently. So that's a rough estimate. One of the other things that I just wanted to say is, in discussion when we were working on launching the third round of notary elections, there was a question of, will previous notaries still be able to participate in large data sets that they had already been working with? So LDN applications they had already approved. And this was before V3. So we thought the answer to that was going to be yes, because those addresses would already be on those previous multi-sigs. Because of the change over to V3, that became no longer true. So that's part of, like, we sort of already said that we think the answer to this question was going to be yes, and then we had a tech change. So where this becomes just a different conversation is, it would mean that previous notaries could also sign newly approved LDN clients as well, and how we feel about that. And there's a question about who applied but failed. I would have to go check. I don't know that there were any previously accepted notaries from round 2 that applied for round 3 but were not selected. So we're as far as I know, we are exclusively, and I'm getting a thumbs up from K, right? We are talking about notaries or notary organizations who did not reapply for round 3, but are still coming to governance calls, present on Slack, making direct allocations out of their remaining data cap, that sort of thing. And so the question, there's like fewer than 5 people, and I don't think that it's anyone who failed. This is issue 568. So if you have other questions, or there was someone specifically, you could go to that GitHub issue. I'm gonna pause now and see if there were any other hands.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Do these notaries even want to participate in the LDN fee-free thing?
Yes.
The reason this came up is because there are, like I said, I think it's 2, but less than 5. There's 2 off the top of my head that I can think of that have said, I thought we were going to be able to participate in LDNs. I already have a relationship with some of these projects. I would like to keep working with large data sets and doing diligence. And so they have asked specifically if they could be included. And so then the question of why didn't they reapply? Some of it was they, didn't want to commit the full amount of SLA time or keep doing allocations. directly, and they were just interested in, coming to some governance calls and participating at a different level, which that also has been brought up a couple times of how might we have different types of notaries. There was a question, Blockmaker saying that they don't think we should add them and that they should qualify, and saying it will affect current normal approval. Blockmaker, can you say more about how it will affect current approval? Do you mean current approval of LDNs?
Anyway, I don't have any objections. I can't follow the chat since I'm on the road. So
Yeah.
I just want to say no objections.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Last point, based off the questions, Carolina, these are folks that have already been notaries. They've already done their application. They've already done scored. There's no new scoring. It's just like if you were already in the program, you just get access to do what this LDN technical process is. So that's the only thing that they're doing. No new scoring, people that have been active, contributing, passing out data cap, just adding them onto the multi-sig.
And then there was a question of that we would have to create a multi-sig. We would not create another multi-sig. The proposal is just to add these previous notary addresses to the existing V3 multi-sig. Union Labs does not support, and these notaries need another. So the whole point of like one of the advantages to V3 is that we don't need to change that multi-sig address. For example, last week, the root key holders were able to add a notary who was elected during the third round who had not gotten their ledger yet. So we added that to the V3 notary so that that notary could sign LDN allocations. So it seems like some good conversation here. I would love the people that are disagreeing to go to 568 and kind of say some more and why, so that we can track that. And the people that are either agreeing or have no opinion to also go to 568 and add that as well. So, and there's some more context in the issue too. I do think we need to move forward, and if we have time at the end, potentially come back to this one. So with that, sorry, off a slide, we wanted to take a second and get a check-in on Project Antarctic. And I believe, I think I saw Sal. Maybe not. I know that Gregory was planning to make it to the next call later today. So we may just need to, and I thought I saw someone else from the SEAL team. We wanted to check in on this 10 PIBs of data, this 50 PIB total project where we created 10 LDNs. And I think there was a comment on one of the other issues where someone on their team said that part of it was they were focusing on Project Bearded, which is one of their other data sets, and that once that was completed, they would have the bandwidth to be working on this one, and they were still getting the 10 PIB data set from the client themselves and processing it. So I believe that was the update that I got in one of the GitHub issues. I just wanted to give a chance for them to talk to it some more. Since they're not here, we will save that time and move forwards, and we'll check back in this afternoon. So that takes us to this issue 571. Drop this one in the chat. Oh, no, sorry. I'm off one. My bad. Raghav, that's you.
Awesome. We have been working on some tooling for trust and safety within the Filecoin Plus program, and this one is being developed by Starboard. And so Kenzo has been the lead on this one, and he couldn't be here because he's in Singapore. But what we'll do today is we'll do a demo. This is an alpha, a very early MVP to show some of the things that we've been working on. And we would love the feedback from the community. You're also open to kind of send your questions to me or to Kenzo. We're on Slack and email that I'll share and put in the chat. But for now, let's jump into the video.
I don't know if we can hear it. Carrie might have to share.
It's File Plus.
Is this coming
there
through?
goes.
File Plus encourages verified data and storage utilization on the Filecoin network with 3 actors, who are the notary, client, and storage providers, where data cap are allocated and spent respectively. So what are the missing links in the File Plus process currently that we are trying to solve on File Plus analytics? We are trying to provide an overview of the File Plus process and identify potential bottlenecks in the form of lead time, utilization rates, and relationship between actors. Secondly, the lack of follow-up with clients could potentially result in data cap not being utilized, which translates to a loss in potential protocol revenue. The File Plus analytics aims to identify clients who have not fully utilized their data cap and notify them accordingly. Lastly, would be the anomaly detection, which helps us track users that shows anomalous behavior in the network. This is because there's an incentive for the clients to work with storage providers in order to reap the rewards from the network by getting their fake data set verified by the notaries. This places a huge strain on the notaries, as they are the first line of defense to identify and reject such anomalous behavior. Moving on, I would like to show you an alpha version of the File Plus analytics that we have developed so far. So over here, we're able to see the alpha version of the analytics dashboard. In the alpha version landing page, there's a brief overview of the actors and the data cap flow, providing a general sense on how the processes are moving along. So moving down, we can see the week-on-week analysis over here, which are the data cap allocated and verified deals. So in case you are wondering how we can identify who are the top actors on the network, we have over here the top 10 actors based on the verified deals for clients and providers, and the top 10 notaries who have allocated data set to the respective clients. So over here, we have all of the storage providers in the network in this table over here. Same goes for the client and notaries. So for this demonstration, I'll go and open this particular client, Lukesoft, and we are able to see over here the relationship graph on all of the actors over here. We're able to see the particular client over here. If we're able to open, we're able to check on all the client IDs, the client names, as well as other important information over here as well. So if we were to look at all of its other immediate neighbors, we're able to see over here on the particular notaries, as well as the particular providers over here as well. So in case we are wondering, instead of looking at the immediate neighbors, and we want to look at all of the other connections, potentially the second or third connections from here, we're able to right-click these potential nodes, which in this case is the storage providers, and expand on the neighbor. So over here, we are able to see those who are 2 to 3 connections away in relation to this particular client over here. So moving on, we have like a quick information regarding these particular actors, which are the client IDs, name, address. Same goes for the protocol, snapshot, deal snapshot, allocation snapshot, and other details as well. So at the bottom over here, we have the weekly data cap change based on this particular client as well. So if we were to look at this neighbor list over here, we're able to get all of the immediate notary neighbors over here, as well as providers here as well. So the next will be the activity list, where we are able to see all of the notaries who have actually allocated the data cap to this particular client. So the next thing that I would like to showcase would be the observables over here, where it will be made public, where we have something similar to the alpha version showcasing all of the data cap flow over here in the sense of the data cap allocation, spend, as well as the data cap availability over here. Next would be the utilization rate, as mentioned. So we can see that our current utilization rate hovers around 80% benchmark. And in order for us to actually improve or bring up this utilization rate, what we can do is to look at this following table over here, which is the data capacity table, which showcases all of the clients as well as the data cap being allocated on that particular transaction and the date, as well as the total data cap being allocated to them. So if we were to look at the utilization rate, we can see that because this particular client has was just being allocated the data cap, they probably will not have sufficient time to actually utilize the data cap. But if we move further down along the line, we can see that there are also other clients who have not utilized their data cap despite being allocated a while back. So we can check over here, and what we hope to do is to identify clients with low utilization rate and actually encourage them to go onto the network and spend their data cap. So the bottom two charts are charts that have been showcased in the alpha version. So for example, all the clients, notaries, as well as a storage provider. So if you are interested, we can also potentially right click on them to showcase more information on there. And same goes for this immediate neighbor list as well. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. If you have any suggestions, questions, or feedbacks regarding the 12+ analytics, do not hesitate to email me or contact me on Slack as well. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Kevin. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're still in the early stages of developing this. We would love your feedback. If you have any specific feedback, please feel free to reach out to Kenzo or myself. We're both on Filecoin Slack. Yeah, looking forward to connecting with you, some of you, and learning more about your thoughts.
Awesome. Okay, Ray, can we jump to the round 3? I think, yeah, there we go. This one, Raghav, there's some questions for you in the chat around APIs. I don't know if you saw those, and where the team was at on like which APIs they might be able to stand up first, and what the prioritization was. Maybe there's like one consolidated Slack channel or thread where we could start to get that, or a discussion topic in a repo to start capturing maybe what the community would want first.
Actually, I will sync in with Kenzo, and then I will update the community on Slack first, and then if we want, we can start a GitHub. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Sounds great. Everybody wants those endpoints. It's gonna be exciting. Okay, so talking about this issue number 571, because I don't think you guys have seen it yet since I posted it yesterday. When I checked this morning, there were no comments on it, but this comes from a couple of various Slack threads and some specific conversations and calls that we've had And so I just wanted to like try and get the conversation to happen in one place so that we could all land on the same page. And I know there are a couple of people that this affects on the call today. So here was my proposal. This was from some sort of investigation that I did and talked to some other people at these organizations and talking to some notaries specifically. So there is some overlap in these, and my understanding is that that is pretty normal. There is overlap between the work that the Filecoin Foundation does and Starboard and Protocol Labs and various dev grants. It makes sense that at this stage in an ecosystem, some organizations or companies will invest in multiple project partners. Look at how Protocol Labs is kind of going through a reorg for PLV8 and standing up different organizations and teams. I think that these things are normal. I think that sometimes they can be a little more confusing when you may have like a cultural difference. I remember when I first started at Filecoin Foundation and I was trying to understand the difference between like the USC Showa Starlane project, and it's like it's at a university, but it's a research lab, but it's a separate project, but it's an organization. It's like, what is happening here? So I get it. I get that like sometimes we see overlap and we don't know. Does this mean that these are subsidiaries? Does this mean that this company owns this other one completely? Did they just invest? Are they just friends of one another? And so we, the governance team, care about transparency, and we want to assume best intentions and believe that if we ask the right questions, we can be transparent and everyone can play, by the rules and above the board. So we had a group of organizations submit applications. These organizations have also submitted large data set applications. Again, this is like a normal thing. A company may have a large data set or be working on a project to onboard data to the network, and they are also interested in understanding that notary process and being involved and engaged. So we have some expectations at the community level right now around a notary should not be signing their own LDNs. Effectively, what we don't want is for one organization to play all of the roles in the process, right? We don't want them to be the client with the data, and the notary and storing it with themselves. And so where this becomes a question is, how do we know that whether or not that is happening and how much overlap there is? So I proposed, because we kind of captured this in a couple different places, I proposed getting all of these addresses and relationships into one GitHub issue. Because I know in the various notary applications, they list out their addresses. In the LDNs, they have their LDN client address, but that can be hard to track through. So my suggestion to just sort of put this to bed and have more transparency is to put it in one place. So I know Indie Labs posted an update in GitHub. I think they posted that in their notary application specifically, but it also, if we could get that into this notary disclosures tracking number 571, I put in there a sample table that you could potentially copy. I'm not a GitHub and Markdown wizard, so I don't know the easiest way to share a Markdown table. Maybe I'll make a hackend e-file for you guys. I don't know. All this seems complicated. But basically, if we could get the address, the type of address, historical address, that sort of thing, that would then allow people in the community to monitor and track what's happening, and allows us to say, yes, NFT Star has this LDN and this notary, and those two, that notary shouldn't sign allocations to that LDN. And then we have it in one place where you can see if it happens, somebody can say something about it. And then Kim from ShipCloud said, should we ignore their dishonest behavior before no punishment? I'd be curious to know what dishonest behavior, if you wanted to put that in the chat or unmute or. Yeah.
One thing I would say is just we have to ignore behavior that are uncertain at least in the beginning, because if we're not ignoring behavior we don't know if is punishable or not, we are just being unjust, and you have to be careful about that. One question I had about this issue is that would it be for every notary, or is it only specific for those that are listed there? Because if you are just
every notary is already submitted their disclosures to get ratified in the third round. This was just it was brought up that these notary organizations have also submitted LDNs and have also have like working relationships with one another. And so every notary has already submitted their disclosures. We are not asking for any additional special information from these 5. We are just asking to put it in one place for everyone. But I would like to hear from ShipCloud and this comment, and if there is something specifically that they're referring to, if they could put it in the GitHub issue 571 so that we can investigate what behavior they're referring to.
Yeah, because I did a brief overview of some of the complaints and whatnot, and I didn't quite understand if what the problem was. Was it because they're partnering with each other, or but because that's not forbidden, at least
No,
from what I know.
they're sealing each other's deals.
Oh.
So and D-Labs sends deals to POW, and POW sends deals to NFT. So it doesn't look like self-sealing, but in reality it is.
So, and
But
that's why I think if
they
we can
can't
get all of
be
the
doing that in
addresses
partnership
in one place, then we can see what is the amount and what is the percentage.
I don't know if that means they are like doing self-dealing specifically. They can be like they can be doing some weird behavior like exchanging data cap and whatnot and allocations, but not necessarily being like self-dealing or self doing those. So, but it requires us to do a more deep investigation.
Hi,
for sure.
Hi guys, this is Augustine from iPolo. So I'd like to clarify something on this. I do not think that there is any dishonest dealing at all. So it's because like you see, Andy Labs is part of our data cap handler, and as I'm not sure if anyone knows, but Nano Labs, which is also the parent of iPolo, has just listed today in Nasdaq, and we, as a company, will honesty and transparency as foremost requirement in our listing. So we are more than happy to share everything that we have done if there is a need. But I don't think there is any dishonest dealing, and we are all partners and working together for this notary and the governance of this whole issue.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily dishonest. It's also that you were not aware of rules or things that did exist a few months ago. So dishonest is maybe the wrong word.
Yeah,
yes, I probably think that dishonest could be the wrong word, and maybe a better word could be used. Maybe we were unaware or something along that line. But it's good if you give the rest of the members to have some way of clarifying what has happened, and rather than just shooting us down. I mean, like let's just deal with this in a more proper manner, and yeah.
Yeah, one worry I have is that we gotta be careful not to damage the reputation of anyone's brand while we do those investigations, because that can be really harmful to companies that are trying to grow and like startups and whatnot. So we got to be careful not to
Ye-
damage the reputation without having
Yes, thank you
something
very
confirmed.
much. I mean, like this is much appreciated because as we just join in and we might not know if there is any areas that we may have not get through with and all this. So give us some time to look at what went wrong, or maybe what we should have done, and we can clarify this in future meetings. But let us know what's wrong, and we can do this together and work as a community together.
Yeah, from what I know, I agree 100%. We gotta do that and be more
Yeah.
recommending and documenting and suggesting instead of just because if you look at it.
Alexander, I'm going to cut you off just for a minute for time. I know that we have a hand from Kobayashi. Kobayashi, I want to give you time since your hand's been up. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe these honest behaviors should be published. And let's say one ballot veto or restart the election to evacuate their certification. I believe Notary is a special rule in our community. It requires a solid reputation. So I think for ND Labs, they are not qualified for a Notary in responsibility and reputation. But our rules, let's say SPO investors in the community is open for ND Labs. On the other hand, if ND Labs insist in being a notary or proving their innocence, I like to ask them to retrieving of their history project for both notaries and community to check whether there are something goes wrong. Granting ND Labs notary is a severe violation of community rules and principles, and I'm afraid that if ND Labs makes this, there will be more and more copycat to follow their dishonest behaviors and totally destroy our democracy and environment. And I believe CW shares the same idea with me. And that's all my views. And I will post my comments in GitHub later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, so we only have 10 minutes left, and there was another topic, but I just wanted to reiterate, and K-Ray reposted the issue 571. Our goal here is transparency, defining what we think are the dishonest behaviors, like giving specific examples and results, and trying to have sort of a restorative justice mindset to say, if we think that a person or an organization was doing something that we disagree with, we can call them out, allow them to explain and say, like, how do we feel? Do we feel that it is safe enough to move forward, or propose an alternative solution? Perhaps the alternative solution is, we allow certain people to be notaries, but only for direct allocations and not LDNs, or only for a certain amount of data cap. Like, there are other ways that we could test solutions. We do not have to just say you're either a notary or not. Like, we could get creative with how we want to structure this. But some really good conversation here. We have a lot of topics to cover. So I wanted to pass it back to K-Ray for the last discussion post.
Yeah, thanks, Galen. Sweet. Alexandria, I know that you had a comment that you wanted to have time on. We have a type 5 for you if you want to introduce your thoughts before you make this proposal.
Yeah, so I didn't actually ask for the time, but yeah, I appreciate this. That's something related to some of the issues we are having, like knowing what is right, what is wrong, what are the rules for notary, what are the rules for a client, what rules should we follow, and what processes for becoming a notary, becoming a client, and whatnot. And that's related to that. It's something I've already started doing and documenting every process involved in the program, and to make it more transparent and help people understand what how the system actually works and how everything connects, and yeah, just to make sure we have everything documented and centralized to understand every process, and so we can do those investigations, and not just investigations, but if we want to do some kind of improvement and whatnot, we first gotta know how the system works, how everything works. And so that's it. That's just a documentation effort I'm doing to help the community and the project.
Yeah, sounds great. So I think we have this up here for two reasons. One was the idea of an interesting community member like yourself. And then two, I think Galen said this word, and I'm going to say this word again, transparency. I think that's one of the big portions that we're really pushing with this community, is trying to keep it in the open. So outside of DMs, outside of direct emails, in public Slack channels, in public GitHub repositories, and on this call, and everywhere else, kind of transparency and trust dies. So with this, great, love to see it. Our just request is, as you're working on anything that you think would benefit the community, try to put a proposal up like, hey, these are where I'm putting my documentation. And that way, some of the folks like Carolina in chat would love to participate or have a hand. Otherwise, what may happen is like some of these projects are developed and then just die on the vine, because then we're looking for the community buy-off. So really glad to have your enthusiasm on this. Thank you. I think there was a few more people that would like to participate and join you in like collecting and looking at that through your eyes. If you make a proposal, that way the folks can jump on, share their input, and keep it as transparent as possible. So we still have another minute on this. Did you have any other thoughts, or Caroline, anything you wanted to add?
No, just that I'll probably do that after I have some basic stuff built on, and yeah.
Sweet. All right. So we have a few minutes that we save on the call for the community discussion. I think there might be some callbacks to a couple of few issues. So I'm just going to go a little bit of out of order, and I'm going to repost the links. We don't run out of time. The reason we're doing this is those of you that have joined after this link was shared, you won't see it in chat, but this is just a way to kind of say, hey, I was here. We look at this for fourth round elections. We look at this when trying to like triage support. We look at this for you notaries. So we'll put this link one last time if you didn't fill it out. That way you can kind of check in for being here on this call. And then this is, I'm going to call and then skip back to discussion. We had two LDNs that presented their project proposals. This will be reposted in the application room as well as the notary call. And what they're looking for, it's a sample food provided and they have the relevant data. They've shared a lot more information for some of the requests that have come through. Their requests were created back in June, so they're relatively new, really trying to get these through. So they've made 2 5-minute presentations that we'll watch off this call just at your own async. But if you want to get involved, these are 2 LDNs from Asia, what their businesses are, and they're ready to go for that. So I'll kind of tab back and I'll open it up for discussions. Ideally, we start with any notaries or any kind of thoughts you have, and then we'll open it up for the wider community.
There was a question in the Slack that I just wanted to, or not in the Slack, in the chat, sorry, that I wanted to call out. Indie Labs is asking, I think they're asking if Carolina from Philfly, Kobayashi, and Kim are in a Slack channel. So if those people, if you are in the public Filecoin Slack, it'd be great. If you could, sounds like you're gonna DM Indie Labs. It also may be that some of these people are in the Phil Plus, but not the Phil Plus notaries. So that's another place where people could converse. I would like to err on the side of transparency and converse in the Phil Plus channel rather than in DMs, but I also understand that there are some questions that you may want to clarify in a DM before asking broadly, and make sure that we're on the same page, and maybe something like a language barrier or a misunderstanding doesn't happen in a big public channel. So were there other hands or discussion topics? No hands. I know when there's 43 people in the room and it's being recorded, it's you get a different.
Looks
Nope.
like we have a hand.
We got a hand.
Got a hand.
Hi
Floor is
guys.
yours.
Yeah, I was wondering about adding the second round notaries to the V3 multisig. So will there be a new process of scoring system or no?
So the proposed solution is that we would not have them submit a whole application and rescore their application and recalculate all of the counts per region. And the reason for that is because the proposed solution is to not give them any additional data cap. It is to just add them to the V3 LDN multisig so that they could sign LDN proposals or approvals. So doing this would not give any of those notaries individually the ability to make more allocations as an individual. It would just let them be on a multisig with a threshold of 2.
I see. Yeah, that's
One thing,
Carolina, did you have a follow-up question?
no, that's enough for me.
if they are approving the applications, aren't they like indirectly having data cap because they can approve those applications and
Yeah, but they
I
as,
really don't know
as a
that.
single address are not getting more data cap. So they as a single address are not getting an additional allocation that would go to a region. They are being put on a multisig with a threshold of 2.
Yeah, so they would hand that data cap to someone. So
It's their data
that's
cap.
basically having
It's theirs. It's
data
like
cap.
they've already had it. They've had it since the election. They're just blocked on distributing it. So this is no new data cap, no new data cap, no new data cap. These are people that have already done the scoring, just like any notaries on this call that may have tons of data cap and wish to stay in the program past the election. And really what the root is do you have to continually reapply just to keep what you already have and allocated? So again, these folks already have data cap. It's just letting them use it on the LDN. It's a tech blocker, so they need to sign the disclosure if they want to.
I don't know if just a tech bug because it is a different process, right?
What is?
The process for an LDN and the direct application,
No.
Somewhat. Let me repost the discussion because we are at time. So I will repost the GitHub issue 568 and want to.
If that's not a different process, why can't everyone just sign it LDNs?
It's a combination, but we can take the rest of this offline because I want to make sure that we don't muddy the waters of this as we run out and say something that is like only partially part of the answer as we like end the time. So the discussion topic is there. If there are further questions in it, and then we will also discuss this more this afternoon in the second call. So if there are more questions about it, we'll cover those. They'll be recorded. This recording will get posted on YouTube and everyone can follow up on it. But I do have to cut us off. Thank you, everybody joining. Say packed agenda. Head over to GitHub and the Slack channels.
All right. Well, very friendly hello, everybody. This is the 4 p.m. 2300 UTC version of the 12th July 2022 Notary Governance Call. So for this, if this is your first time watching or on the line, we break this call into 4 primary sections. We kick it off with some friendly hellos, brief introductions, so you have some faces to go by. If you're new on the call, we invite you to say hello so we could track you. Notaries with SLA, we give you a chance to like check in here. We put that in the metrics for your leaderboard. And then we talked about issues, and you could flag these issues in GitHub to get on this agenda if you're so keen. If you're an applicant request, we give you time to present and give your videos, and we make sure that the notaries participate and review, and that way it's all set up. So with that, let's take a quick look at the quick team. So Deep, Galen, myself, and Rajef, we make up your notary governance team. You could ping us for any of the subject areas below, and we'll be able to plug you in and get you in the right place for whatever you need. If you are on this call and you want to make it a lot easier for us to keep up, answer questions, or if we come back for any like reviews, it makes it super helpful to know who we're talking to. So if your name on your Zoom is like iPhone or Pete's Dragon, if you change it over to your name or like your name and organization, it just makes it a whole lot simpler as we try to work with you. And it's just a completely optional as you go through. We're going to post the link here in chat. Looks like Galen, man, so fast. So this should be old hats for you guys by this point in time. But we take this Airtable, and that's what I put together for some of the DMs you might have got this afternoon, just confirming like, hey, where's your participation lie, to kind of slide that in for that SLA portion for your notaries. If you are not a notary, we still recommend that you fill this out just for like friendly tracking. We'll be taking this into account if you wish to apply in the 4th election coming up later this year, or you're a storage provider or just interested applicant. We could pull from this to answer any questions you have or route you in the right place. So with that, take your time. I'll be waiting for you to sign in. Galen, is my computer showing?
Yes, I love it when it does that.
I feel like I'm playing solitaire back.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, I think I've covered it so you could see metrics. Right. So,
all right, there we go. It caught up.
We highlight this slide every 2 weeks. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. So I think this week, the big call out is there wasn't a lot of changes, and we're trying to figure out the why. So the 4 categories that we're really looking at from like the health of this program as we go forward from top down, it's essentially how long does it take data cap to get distributed from both applications and the LDN process? How long does it take for somebody who submits that application to hear from a human and ask them clarifying questions or follow up? And then how much data is in the network? So for those of you that have been on this call and looking at this or listening to me talk about it, this average time to data cap, it's been at these like 5, 3, 4 days, 7 days for a really long time. And we're trying to figure out what's kind of causing that to hang. And so when we looked at some of these numbers, we're doing really well, essentially like triaging a lot of these new requests that come in. We're giving applicants time to get back to us with questions. The reason why we're seeing this still maintaining high number, it's we have some legacy ones on file. Like this one that I've highlighted is 84 days open. So what that does, obviously, if you have a curve in a classroom and somebody gets that 100% and 0, it throws it for a loop. So we'll be going through here and trying to like follow up on these really outdated applications and see if we can do anything to help unblock those. So you might see some pings coming from us in the next couple of days. It's funny, yeah. And so also we built right into the statistics page, there's this new graph. I know that we rolled this out in the last governance call or 2 governance calls, but if you're ever curious to see some of these metrics or see some of these, if you're pulling any data or APIs, please let us know. But again, what we're going to be looking at is closing out some of those really old issues to see if we can start getting really tactical with these as we go forward. This comes from our Starboard metric, and this is showing the daily active deals for the last 30 days, and then the storage contracts deal count that came through. Again, sometimes we have a huge drop. For the most part, this is just a really consistent flow as we keep that data going. So nothing really to call out on this slide, which is one of those no news is good news from a data perspective.
I had a quick thing before we move on, just with this group of 16. Can you go back 2 slides? Yeah, right here. Just a quick question. If you could give me a like reaction, either like a thumbs up or a ta-da reaction. If you have gone to the interplanetary dashboard and looked at the new large data set tab, the way that we're tracking allocations as dual signatures, just has anyone like gone and peeked that yet? Not seeing any reactions. Interesting. Okay, cool. That's a good data point. I would encourage you to go check out the work that we've done on that dashboard and how we're coming up with those 512 allocations. Yes, WIP is work in progress. Okay, cool. Thanks, Carrie. We can move on.
So here is the tactics on the open agenda. We had this session in the morning, obviously, in the first part, and there was a lot of discussion that happened around a couple of these points. With a little bit less of us on the line, we might go faster, but we're going to make sure that we carve out time to give you plenty of space to kind of chat through these. As always, we shared the deck in the Phil Plus channel, so you can follow along or grab the links. The links will always be included in the threads of each slide. And then Galen or myself will also post them in the repository. But I think at a very high level, what I'm saying is that we're seeking feedback on a couple of issues on this call. So really keen to get your feedback either via the text in the chat or voicing or commenting directly in GitHub. So with that said, first thing, we floated this on the last governance call. It was kind of unanimously picked. This is going to impact those of us on the call right now the most. So just making sure that we hammer this home. The August timeframe, we will be shifting this call back by 2 hours. So we kind of talked about the reasons why in the last. You might have seen the calendar shift for the notary governance time for if you follow this meeting. I'll also post it in Slack just like every other week. But this is just one of those like almost like daylight saving times we have in California. Just reminder that come August, this sync will be 2 hours later. We'll try it for a month. We'll get your feedback. If it's positive, we'll keep it as a new time. If it's negative, we'll switch back to the time that we're having it now. With that, I'll turn it over to Galen.
Sorry, multitasking, had to find the mute button. I also dropped in the chat a link to the public Google Calendar that we use for these notary calls. That should help be a way for you to track, because to the best of our ability, those time zones are accurate. I don't know, sometimes different places have time zone changes. Okay, so in this conversation, Sunny is coming is a GitHub handle some of you may or may not have seen. This is a person that has been doing some contract work with us to help kind of do some tactical and strategic work on allocations. One of the projects that this person has helped us come up with are some changes to the direct allocation form. So this is for when a client submits a direct request to a notary. Right now, that the questions in that form are pretty lightweight. It's really just who are you, what's your website, and how much data cap do you want? And what we have seen is that a lot of notaries then have a standard set of questions that they ask back. And this can slow down the process where a client fills out this form, the notary goes to GitHub and sees that they have a request. They reply in a comment with their questions. The client sees those questions, answers them in a comment. And so now we have this back and forth. What we don't want to do is try and force a one size fits all solution, because we want notaries to be able to have their own questionnaire. But we were able to identify some consistent questions that most notaries ask clients in this case. And so Sunny put together this discussion topic, this proposal to add these to that direct allocation form in an effort to maybe slow down some of that back and forth and decrease that time to data cap for direct allocations. So our hope here, notaries, is that this helps you because you're the primary user group for this. So I would encourage you, go to issue 566, take a look at the specific changes that we are proposing. Let us know if we have missed something, or if you think that it is good to go. I'm going to pause for one sip of afternoon coffee to see if there are any hands about this issue. Okay. Sounds good. K-Ray.
Sorry, Galen, just hang on a sec.
Oh.
Is that it?
Is that it? What do you mean?
Is that the sum? Is that all the questions?
No one had any questions about this issue just now, correct? You're saying, is that?
Oh, are these the modifications in 556?
In 566, yes, those are the changes that are being proposed by Sunny to the direct allocation. This is not about LDNs. This is just the proposed solution is to change to basically have the core information, the project details, the use case, the data cap allocation. So like the smaller screenshot over here that's on screen right, it would be adding those question categories to the form that currently is the larger screenshot.
Sure. Understood.
Cool.
Good question. Thanks, Mike. All right, I'll take this one, and this is definitely one of those looking for input in discussions. So here's the backstory. We just went through our third election that you all are very familiar with back in the March, April, May timeframes. And we brought on all of the new notaries, and existing notaries could choose to apply to renew their data cap in that third election. There was a handful of notaries that had been selected under the second round of elections that still had existing data cap, that just wished to say, I'd like to just continue in the program. It's almost like they already paid their cover ticket and they were inside the venue. No need to sit any closer. So that all worked out great. But with the new rollout of the LDN process and the multi-sig, what it means is that without that new updated disclosure steps and authorization, a few of these participating but second round notaries are now blocked from signing LDNs. What we're proposing in this application is for grandfathering in those first and second notaries to be able to sign LDN applications. So a few points to kind of clarify. These are notaries that are active and participating. These are notaries that did not apply for re-election and get kicked out. They just did not reapply because they already had data cap. And the third point is it will not change any of the data allocations. All we're essentially doing is saying, yep, you've been here, you've been grandfathered in, you've been participating, you can just continue to participate in the LDN process. So there were some thoughts on this on the morning. I'll pause and open it up for any thoughts that you guys have.
Hey, Kevin, James from Picnic here. I don't see any issue with this proposal, especially since you have the active and participating requirement. If it weren't for that, then there could have been issues just grandfathering in old notaries that no longer participate. But as is, it looks fine in my opinion.
Awesome. I also wanted to add one more thing that I mentioned in the earlier call. When we were having conversations with some of the people from round 2 during the election process of round 3, at that time, LDN V3 was just a twinkle in the eye of the governance team. And so we had this hypothesis that all of the LDN multisigs were going to continue. And so some of the notaries asked, will we be able to continue working with these existing LDN clients? And at that time, our answer was yes, like we anticipate so. Then with the change to V3, we're working on deprecating all of those multisigs. So those, like that small subset of notaries who wanted to continue working on LDNs and primarily wanted to continue working with project partners that they had already approved from last year, they are no longer able to like sign those allocations. So really this is just around like, is this the best solution to do this? Are there other things that we like feel that we need as a community? And so like the proposal right now is to have them again with the like active and participating, make sure that we know these are people, not just the governance team will bulk add everyone. These are people that are specifically asking for it. And that the proposal here is only to add them to that one V3 multisig so that they could sign previous and new LDNs as either proposals or approvals. So we won't be adding any additional data cap directly to any round 2 notaries. And so that's like another important thing that was asked this morning. So I think Carolina had a hand, and then I think it was James with Picnic.
Carolina, if you're speaking, I don't think your mic's working, even though you're unmuted.
How about now? Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes.
Now,
I might have a slightly different understanding of the duties and authority of a notary. I think the greatest power a notary gets is to sign LDN for someone else. About the amount they get is actually irrelevant. So my point here is notaries who will be newly added to V3 multisig, although they were notaries before, I know that. But after a period of time, we can't see that they still have the ability and qualifications to serve the community due to, let's say, not being able to score them again in a new round. I don't know how you guys think about this, but that's some of my thoughts.
Yeah, James, I'm going to take a second and reply to that, and then I'll get to you. I think this is like a really interesting point, and what I would love to see is if this is a concern, that we then say, okay, we added these 3 addresses, they were previous notaries, and in some amount of time, maybe it's in the next 3 months, we look at the allocations that those notaries make. Is there an issue? Is there something that we need to discuss or review about the specific behavior? And I think where we keep like trying to balance as a community is this thing of, if we kind of ask people subjectively up front, tell us what you're going to do, and then we give them an opportunity, and then we track kind of quantitatively on chain, what do they do? We may then have data that says, okay, these 3 people asked to come back, and then they ended up not doing anything. If they don't do anything, is that a big threat? We've had some notaries who never get direct allocations because they never get direct allocation requests. So is it a big threat to leave data cap with them, or should we, how much confidence do we have in like this threat tolerance? And so I think what you bring up is a really good point, which is, if we approve these people and they haven't answered, been scored, answered the questions, applied, are they going to continue operating, with best practices? And I think the question is, why don't we give them a chance and find out? And maybe this teaches us something different. I know other people, like I think it was Meg's idea initially, who said, let's have different types, like classifications of notaries, where a notary is only on LDNs or is only doing direct allocations. Maybe there's different structures, and this could teach us something about that, right? Where we learn how we need to track behavior. I think what I mentioned earlier about the dashboard that tracks allocation pairs, you can now go in and you can click on a notary and see all of that notary's LDN signatures. Who did they sign with? What did they sign? How long ago? And that sort of thing. So we have greater insights into notary behavior across LDNs as well.
Well, yeah, there's another thing that I would like to check out. At yesterday's meeting, I asked if there were any people who had reapplied but failed, and I was told that there were none. But when I go through the notary governance again, the channel, I saw that there were quite a few, let's say like 3 to 4, I think. actually the number of them actually doesn't matter, but as part of the community, we should consider their rights as well. If there were none of them reapplied and failed, then I think it's fair to add others into the V3 multisig. But if there are some, we should let them to speak out or just maybe, consider them a tiny bit more. It's unfair if people, who didn't reapply and will somehow automatically pass. I mean, if they tried and they failed, they learned and they can better improve, right? At least they showed their interest and efforts. Of course, I know the automatically added part, they are still participate and try to actively involve in the community. But let's say the one who reapplied but failed, they actually trying to contribute to the community in a way that you can say, which we should never ignore. And for that, for the one that didn't even bother to participate at all, I would put my words in that way. At least from my perspective, they're not the same.
Really,
I agree that there's a difference between like if somebody reapplied and was rejected. Off the top of my head, I don't know which notaries. So if you went through and found some, I would love if you could send or like put it in Slack or put it in the chat, just so that we are looking at the same thing. Because it's very likely that I am wrong and somebody did reapply for round 3 and was rejected. But off the top of my head, I thought that everyone who reapplied for round 3 that was elected round 2 was accepted. So if I'm wrong, please tell me the names. Let me know.
Yeah, I will put the link in later.
That'd be great. Thanks, Charles.
Hey, yes. So I'm a little confusing about the question, honestly. So I was thinking that it's some notary who didn't apply and they found him lost the power of some LDN, right? Is that the scenario?
There are some notaries who did not reapply in round 3, so they are not on the V3 multisig. They are not able to sign LDN
great
applications.
So honestly, I'm almost the one you mentioned. So because there was something before the round 3, I was heard, I don't know from which sources, that if you were a notary in the round 2, you're not necessary to apply for round 3, and you still have all the privileges. So that's why I was thinking like, why brother doing that? But then Neil from the notary Neil, Neil, tell me that Charles, you should do that because you have something updated. It's good to keep your profile up to date. And then I did the application. So I'm an example. I didn't apply. It's not because I'm not concerned about the power of LDN. It's just like a misleading information. So in this case, like it's not because I don't want to participate or not focus. It's just like we get some wrong information. We don't know that the reapplication will be connected with the privilege of sign LDN. So this is just my 2 cents. So I think it's reasonable for people who is really active in the community as a notary and give them chance to update their profile and do that, because it's a mistake. But I know that maybe you guys already sent them private messages, the direct message asking them to update their profile. If they still resistant to corporate disclosure about the latest profile, I think, well, if they don't want to do that, then just don't give them the right. Yeah, this is just my 2 cents.
It's good. I'd like to speak for a minute on this one and just kind of go round robin. First is Carolina, I really appreciate the input. I'm realizing that I don't know who you are and which organization are you with, and I'll be sure to put it in the ticket.
We are just a bunch of people who are interested in Filecoin. We're nothing official.
Okay, so are you here like as a storage provider? Obviously not a notary, just interested community participant?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then the 2 links that you shared, just for like the context of the call, those are not the notaries. So I know that 462 was somebody who was turned down. I want to stress that these are not notaries that were turned down, that these are notaries who are very active in participating in Slack and other issues. So just to kind of address that concern for you, these are not newly scored notaries.
Yeah, so Math Wallet, you are correct. One of them was a round 2 notary, was not selected for round 3. They have not asked to be, for this to impact them. If that changes, I think that would be a different conversation. You are correct. That is a organization that applied for round 3 and was not selected. So I was wrong. But the other one, 462, I cannot find that they were a round 2 or round 1 notary.
Yeah.
So, and if there are other ones, please let us know.
Yeah, as again, I was trying to say the number doesn't matter. It's actually their rights. So we should reconsider them a tiny bit more.
Can we get a list of those notaries then that would be transferred to the V3?
Yeah, we yes, we will
like
have a we'll have a list like in the issue before we go add them, so that their application is like clearly listed.
Just kind of putting this in community perspective. I'm sorry, I'm kind of talking over you right now. Alex, what would be the use case? What would you be looking for in those notaries from your level of access that would, as a community member, what would you want to know?
I think mostly to start with who they are.
Okay. It's notary.
What they've been doing before this issue and whatnot. So just to get
and when you say what
a sense of who
I think that's really good data. What is it that you would specifically want to see from these people?
I don't know yet. Just their overall behavior, allocations, comments, approvals, or anything that might be interesting. So not something specific for now, but like to start thinking what would be helpful to have in the sense of information. Having the names would be the starting point, and yeah, going up from there.
Okay. If you think of anything, that's where commenting in that GitHub is really powerful. So whatever you're looking for in that, I like to keep the names agnostic. That way it's not tied to any one individual. And we can tie it more to like a concept of operations, less of like the individuals that it impacts. But if you think of anything, please add your comments in that repo and we'll go forward. Galen, I see. Sorry, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, so we're going to need to move on. But what I'm going to say is like, if we decide to move forward with this, it will be like clearly communicated who they are, because part of it is like, we will indicate the person that we are adding to the multisig, and that will be tracked. So another example is like 4 days ago, a round 3 notary was added to the V3 multisig because they did not yet have a ledger, and at the time of ratification, they have like now completed that. So they have now been added. And so there will be like, it will be specified like who the address is, and that will be like linked back. But I do have to cut us off or we will run out of time. So the next issue is actually going to be a guest presenter from Project Antarctic. Alex, are you on the line?
I am. How's it going, everyone?
Great. Hey, take it away.
Awesome. So Project Antarctic, we applied for some time ago. It's a 10 petabyte encrypted file with 5 copies to a number of different notaries. Some notaries have 5 petabytes data cap, others have 10. In terms of updates, in terms of where we are, obviously the sealing has not started. We have been working with the customer on their end to fix some of their data delivery endpoints to make it work for us, as well as making sure that the encryption is compliant with their organization, given the size and international nature of it. We have since passed the encryption test with their team. We have started pulling in data. I'm sure anyone who's familiar with the task of pulling, 10 petabytes of raw data across the wire is familiar with what kind of task that could be. I'd say that should have about 3 to 5 petabytes of the data that's going to be ready to start being sealed in the next 30 to 60 days. One, I guess, hiccup I'll call it, that we've encountered is that you guys may also be familiar with Project Bearded, which is 6 copies of a 1.2 petabyte project. The data itself is open. The customer's name is confidential. The data itself is environmental data. Again, there's a number of different storage providers in that. We were using Project and still are using Project Bearded as a bit of a test zone in terms of how we could accomplish something to the scale of Antarctic. We've encountered significant issues in a lot of the processing. This comes to the certain levels of restrictions of early data cap. There's obviously an extreme amount of coordination with notaries. There have been kind of buggy keys with notaries. There's been the bot itself have to been debugged a few different times, as well as certain technical issues that have caused extreme slowdowns in the ability to seal as a collective. Mind you, that project is 1/10 the aggregate size, or just under 1/10 the aggregate size of Antarctic. So although the client has still continued to give us data on the Antarctic side, we want to make sure that the moment we start Antarctic with the rest of the group, when we start Antarctic with the rest of the group, we are able to fulfill the requirements that the client wants in a timely and non-difficult manner. So I think we're still learning and trying to improve some of the things from Project Bearded, and we've begun an internal audit of some of the early days, as well as what's going on right now, because it's one of those things where we need to be successful as a group in doing the first pilot program of Antarctic, because the group behind it has significantly more to the tune of hundreds of petabytes that they'd like to work with Filecoin on. So we need to make sure that how we engage with them is very professional, and we do it in a timely manner when in the scope that we say we can. So it is a mix of, we are actively downloading data. We do intend to start soon, but we hope to work with you guys as a community, as well as the team at Protocol Labs, I'll answer some of the questions as well. I see a lot coming at the bottom. Happy to kind of go one by one, but to work with everybody just to say, okay, here's where we saw issues, and obviously talking to all the other SPs, we have kind of weekly calls with them and say, here's the things that we saw were problematic or could be improved. Here's things on our own end, of course, that can be improved. So I could take question. It seems like there was quite a few. I don't know if you guys want to do one at a time here. Or if Galen, you want to call on people?
I think most of the questions in the chat are still about the previous issue, actually. Unrelated, but I had questions for you. So I'll ask some questions, and then we'll see if others have questions too. First question, thank you for the update. Not a question, it's a comment. Second, is it possible to get, like, you listed a couple different things that were like hurdles, and I just want to try and like keep track of those things, because I know some of those were Phil Plus things, some of those are like Filecoin things. Like when you talk about sealing as a group, like that is not a Phil Plus issue, but that's a really interesting learning. And I want to like try and capture that just so that we can keep track. Because I know that like we, the governance team, were a slowdown for this amount of time. And then these like tech blockers that were on our side were slowed down for this amount of time. I'm not trying to like pass blame anywhere. I just if we can like enumerate those things. to see, like, what did we learn from the, when you talk about the encryption and the sealing at that scale, how is that going to impact future projects of this size? What are some like case study things? Those would be like, I think, very useful to other people to know. And I just don't want to lose those like really good insights. So if this specific proposal discussion, this issue post is a good place for that, that's fine. If you had another place where you wanted to like capture that or track that, I'm open to that too.
Yeah, so what we are starting to do, and this conversation right now is more to give an update to you guys as a community as to what timelines expect and why, why the timelines are what they are. We've started to conduct an internal audit, as I was mentioning earlier this week, just listing off our own internal problems with Filecoin, problems with the Filecoin Plus, problems just even as like a collective group where other people had hiccups, sometimes where we found solutions, sometimes where we haven't found solutions yet. So we are actually going to put together a more fulsome report and make that public for people just to take a look at what happened during this project. Because I think that, a lot of the statistics that you guys have put out are just, it's likely that larger and larger LDNs are going to come in, not just from us. We have quite a robust pipeline, but I think other groups too. And I think just being able for everyone to see where there were friction points and how either we could get by them or as a community, we could mutually look at them and say, okay, this actually may not need to be here. Let's discuss removal. But we are going to be submitting something more formal and more detailed that has all of this for people to review. So it's not just sort of an anecdotal discussion.
That is awesome. Thank you. Because I do know that there are there are 2 similarly large, like 10 PIB projects that are like in the works. And so if there's things that we can like help get ahead of with those different projects, like that's super. So thank you for that. I think I saw Meg unmute at one point. Did you have a question?
I was just going to agree with you. You listed a heap of things, Alex. Set them all out, either put them in the issues so we know what are your challenges and what are the ones that the community can fix, because maybe we can, they can be either prioritized and solved, or they can be fed into the enterprise program.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be a nice mix. Some of it will be what can the community do. Some of it might just be a guideline for other SPs to potentially fix issues that we've already encountered. So we're going to try to be as comprehensive as possible for as many members of the community as possible, be it SPs individually, notaries, or just the program itself. So we'll try to do as much as we can, and of course we'll elicit feedback from the other participants in the SP group that we'll be working with. I'm not sure if anyone else has any questions on Antarctic, but if I didn't cover something here, or if somebody is watching this later and has an additional question, feel free to send a message over and we're happy to address it.
Cool. Love it. Thank you. K-Ray, I think, is it me or? Okay, Phil Plus MVP. Raghav, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Raghav. So we've been working on some of the tooling to bring more transparency to the Filecoin Plus program, and we've been working with a team based in Singapore called Starboard, they've developed a few things for us. And so what I'll do right now is just play this recording, which is by Kenzo. And after this, given that we're running short on time, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And then you can reach me on Filecoin Slack, as well as Kenzo, whose information will be on the slide deck. So let's get it. Yeah.
So good day to everyone. I'm Kenzo, a researcher from Starboard. Today, I will be presenting to you about File Plus Analytics. Before I talk about File Plus Analytics, what is File Plus? File Plus encourages verified data and storage utilization on the Filecoin network with 3 actors, who are the notary, client, and storage providers, where data caps are allocated and spent respectively. So what are the missing links in the File Plus process currently that we are trying to solve on File Plus Analytics? We are trying to provide an overview of the File Plus process and identify potential bottlenecks in the form of lead time, utilization rates, and relationship between actors. Secondly, the lack of follow-up with clients could potentially result in data cap not being utilized, which translates to a loss in potential protocol revenue. The File Plus analytics aims to identify clients who have not fully utilized their data cap and notify them accordingly. Lastly, will be the anomaly detection, which helps us track users that shows anomalous behavior in the network. This is because there's an incentive for the clients to work with storage providers in order to reap the rewards from the network by getting their fake dataset verified by the notaries. This places a huge strain on the notaries as they are the first line of defense to identify and reject such anomalous behavior. Moving on, I would like to show you an alpha version of the File Plus analytics that we have developed so far. So over here, we're able to see the alpha version of the analytics dashboard. In the alpha version landing page, there's a brief overview of the actors and the data cap flow, providing a general sense on how the processes are moving along. So moving down, we can see the week-on-week analysis over here, which are the data cap allocated and verified deals. So in case you're wondering how we can identify who are the top actors on the network, we have over here the top 10 actors based on the verified deals for clients and providers, and the top 10 notaries who have allocated data set to the respective clients. So over here, we have all of the storage providers in the network in this table over here. Same goes for the client and notaries. So for this demonstration, I'll go and open this particular client, Luxoft, and we are able to see over here the relationship graph on all of the actors over here. We're able to see the particular client over here. If we're able to open, we're able to check on all the client IDs, the client names, as well as other important information over here as well. So if we were to look at all of its other immediate neighbors, we're able to see over here on the particular notaries, as well as the particular providers over here as well. So in case we are wondering, instead of looking at the immediate neighbors, and we want to look at all of the other connections, potentially the second or third connections from here, we're able to right-click these potential nodes, which in this case is the storage providers, and expand on the neighbor. So over here, we are able to see those who are 2 to 3 connections away in relation to this particular client over here. So moving on, we have like a quick information regarding these particular actors, which are the client IDs, name, address. Same goes for the protocol, snapshot, deal snapshot, allocation snapshot, and other details as well. So at the bottom over here, we have the weekly data cap change based on this particular client as well. So if we were to look at this neighbor list over here, we're able to get all of the immediate notary neighbors over here, as well as providers here as well. So the next would be the activity list, where we are able to see all of the notaries who have actually allocated the data cap to this particular client. So the next thing that I would like to showcase would be the observables over here, where it will be made public, where we have something similar to the alpha version showcasing all of the data cap flow over here in the sense of the data cap allocation, spend, as well as the data cap availability over here. Next would be the utilization rate, as mentioned. So we can see that our current utilization rate hovers around 80% benchmark. And in order for us to actually improve or bring up this utilization rate, what we can do is to look at this following table over here, which is the data capacity table, which showcases all of the clients, as well as the data cap being allocated on that particular transaction and the date, as well as the total data cap being allocated to them. So if we were to look at their utilization rate, we can see that because this particular client has was just being allocated the data cap, they probably would not have sufficient time to actually utilize the data cap. But if we move further down along the line, we can see that there are also other clients who have not utilized their data cap despite being allocated a while back. So we can check over here, and what we hope to do is to identify clients with low utilization rate and actually encourage them to go onto the network and spend their data cap. So the bottom two charts are charts that has been showcased in the alpha version. So for example, all the clients, notaries, as well as a storage provider. So if you are interested, we can also potentially right click on them to showcase more information on there. And same goes for this immediate neighbor list as well. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. If you have any suggestions, questions, or feedbacks regarding the File Plus analytics, do not hesitate to email me or contact me on Slack as well.
Great. So yeah, as Kenzo mentioned, you can reach him on the email. We'll also make this talk public, and you can reach me at Raghav Ramadia. That's my name on Filecoin Slack as well. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Raghav. Next, Alexandra, I know that we discussed this in the morning. Just in the interest of time, for 3 minutes, would you kind of like to talk about your thought process on this? And
actually, is it there? Did we skip one? Yes, this one. Sorry, I got to cover this one. I will try to do this in 2 minutes. Let me get the link. This is issue 571. This also had some conversation this morning. There have been a couple different discussions happening on Slack and in various GitHub issues, pointing out some sort of overlap in these different organizations. These organizations also have LDNs that they have submitted. Some people are claiming that these organizations have like broken rules or been dishonest. I would love to get like clear evidence of those like specific accusations. I think that some of that, I'm not saying that people are wrong. I just want to know specifically what they are seeing, what they're referring to. Because what we want to do is make sure that we understand as like the governance team and the broader community who these organizations are and how much overlap they have. The Filecoin Foundation has a ton of overlap with various project partners. We have, you know, grants that we fund software development teams that PL is also funding. There is overlap in this ecosystem. Like that is just a fact of like how these Web3 ecosystems work and how I would argue like any new business develops. So what we want is these people like want to be engaged, they want to participate, they want to follow the rules, they want to be transparent, and I want to give them a single place to like do that and for us to ask our questions and present evidence if we think that they are doing something that is against, you know, the rules. So some of these people were on the call in the morning. I know ND Labs was there, so if you have further questions for them, you can also go watch that recording. But please go to issue 571, ask your questions, give your evidence. What we would like to do is find out if it is safe enough to move forward ratifying these notaries, and if there is some alternative proposed solution that allows these people to still be engaged community members. So go check out that issue. If there are any hands right now about this, we have like 1 minute. Yeah, lightning, speed round. Okay, thank you for letting me throw that one into the recording as well. K-Ray, back to you.
yeah. So Alexandra, I'll pass it back if you want to just give a 2-minute kind of summary just kind of like Galen did.
All right, so that's basically my effort to document the processes involved in the Filecoin Plus program, and yeah, just a documentation thing that would give us a better view of how things work and how they should be working, and some of the rules and some of the dispute documentation, how that happens, and what should we do about it, and how these things play out. So that's basically it. Just a documentation thing to help the community and help us move forward, knowing what we are dealing with and how to do these things. And
Yeah, +1 and big thanks. I think on the morning call, just for everyone that's on the line now, there were some people that expressed interest in doing something very similar or in collaboration with. So I know that you can see the thread that's on this issue in Phil Plus. Alexander, feel free to make an issue, like a proposal. There you can link any documentation you may have. There we can solicit team members that are in the community that may want to participate, but always a big +1 to get those different perspectives. So thanks for flagging. Look forward to seeing that proposal and that doc that you've done come through. Cheers.
sure, thanks.
So in the interest of time, we have 2 minutes left, so I'm not fooling myself on anybody. So 10 seconds, I'm going to share the applications that prepared videos in the Notaries channel and in the application channel if you'd like to review them. They've already received a lot of diligence. I think they're looking to fast track, so please feel free. I'm going to post the link to this Airtable in chat, but with the time we have left, with any points, this is kind of like an alibi or any additional thoughts anybody may have to flag.
So it's free topic time, free
Yes.
talk time. Okay, great. Anyone want to talk about the we just finished the first one, just the assistant doing the File Toronto, a couple of storage providers like in the meeting, which would be interesting. So now we have the File Singapore coming. Do you have a plan about File Plus talk or governance talk during that time?
Sorry, what's the question? Do we have a plan for the Phil Plus
Singapore,
governance
do we have a
to
meeting
talk?
or something to talk during the Fair Singapore about the governance, Fair Plus related things?
Oh, I don't know who's organizing Phil Singapore and the agenda. And I have not yet been told that I need to be there or be
Okay.
prepared to give a talk. That
No
is
problem.
August.
Middle August, yeah.
Middle August, right? Yeah.
Right.
It's highly unlikely that I will be able to be there in person, but it is possible that we will do a talk. Is there a specific topic that you think, or like a session or an event that we should do?
I don't know. I think we can think about that. I will be personally there. So maybe some side talk, side event, I can help doing that. So I will spend 4 days there with my team. So if I like, in fact, Toronto, we don't have the session about the governance at Fair Plus. So probably like we can lead in another session there. There are a couple of things in the community people is asking now. I know that in Asia, there are more and more people, well, there is a lot of people knows about Fair Plus, but now as like with the first one story providers, they are also interested about those topics now. So we probably like give some information. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would love if you could think about what would be the highest value, because is it an AMA with the governance team and some notaries where we just like field questions, or is it something where we prepare a presentation, or is it something where we send Raghav, because he's the youngest member to join the team, so he gets to do all the travel. I can see, I think he's smiling. I can't quite tell. I think he wants to go to Singapore. He's not moving or anything like that. He's totally free. So yeah, think about like what might be the highest value add, and we could try and put something together.
Right.
It's a good point. Charles, thanks for flagging that. We'll make sure that we include some more information about that in the Slack with the Singapore date coming up.
There's also Phil Lisbon, I think, later this year, like November, October, November. So yeah.
Yeah, planning for another travel.
Well, being respectful of schedules, we're at that ending mark. If there's any topics that you guys like to see more discussion on, please just send us a DM or reach out in the channels. All the links are in the slide deck, and we'll see the applications come through. Just want to say a big thank you, and we'll see you guys on the GitHub and Slack.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, folks.